Hey rock buddies, it's Papa. Today we're going to talk about Serpent Stone. Just kidding about the snake business, but this rock is truly called Serpentinite. And in a minute you may be able to see why. Let's just look at some samples of Serpentinite and try to get a handle on the characteristics of this interesting rock. Here's a sample. What's the first thing you notice? That's right, it's kind of greenish, right? It's kind of greenish. What else do you notice when I do this? Kind of shiny. Kind of greenish and shiny. Serpentinite is a rock made from a mineral called serpentine. And we know that it's greenish and it's shiny. It also has a slick, kind of soapy feel to it. And some examples of it you can scratch with your thumbnail. A nickel will easily scratch serpentinite. Here's another sample of serpentinite. And it's kind of a yellowish green here. This is really, what we have really here is a thin layer of serpentinite. And it's attached to a hunk of a rock called dunite, or peridotite is another name for it. And just to give you a hint of where serpentinite comes from, you may already remember that dunite / peridotite, which are very, very similar, come from the mantle, the plasticky molten mantle, which is just under the Earth's crust. Peridotite / dunite is the most abundant rock in the whole planet. Another sample. That greenish color, that shiny, reflective surface, smooth, that soapy, greasy kind of feel. It's not greasy, it just has that soapy, greasy kind of feel to it. There's a whole bunch of serpentinite in California along the coast in a place called Mount Tamalpais State Park. And it's in the Coast Range hills / mountains of California. They are located all along the Pacific coast. And that's very interesting, and I'm going to tell you in a little while why there's so much serpentinite there. There's bunches of it there. As a matter of fact, serpentinite is California's state rock. This is a Mount Tamalpais Park photo showing researchers examining the effects of all this serpentinite on vegetation there. This is a photo from Google showing a big hunk of this serpentinite rock at Mount Tamalpais State Park in California. Notice the shininess of it and the greenness of it. Does it remind you of serpent scales? Let's look at some more samples. Look at this. This is not green, and it is not strictly serpentinite, but it's a form of serpentinite called soapstone or talc. You're probably familiar with soapstone. If you're a welder, you're definitely familiar with soapstone because welders use soapstone markers to mark the areas that they're going to weld, because the soapstone has an extremely high melting temperature. Let's make a mark on something with this soapstone. See how I made a mark right there with the soapstone? Here's yet another example of serpentinite. It almost looks like we've got kind of serpentinite up here and kind of soapstony stuff down here. This is a cool rock, I like it a lot. Here's an example of serpentinite that came from Georgia. This serpentinite came from what's called the Lake Burton Dunite area, and it's near the Popcorn Overlook up in the North Georgia mountains. Can you see that it has a kind of a greenish scale-like appearance, and that's more than likely why people gave it the name of serpentinite. And finally, here's a form of serpentinite called asbestos. This also comes from the Lake Burton-Dunite area. Like all forms of serpentinite, asbestos has a very high melting point and it's fireproof. For that reason, it's been used for the seals on the doors of wood-burning stoves. It's been used for the brake pads and brake discs on automobiles, and it's even been used as fireproof exterior siding on houses and interior flooring tiles. Because serpentinite is soft, people polish it and they carve it into animal shapes and sell it in novelty shops. In another video, I'll tell you about how serpentinite forms and where serpentinite forms, and its interesting role that it plays in helping to prevent earthquakes. Pop out.